Question 5. Honourable Member for Douglas Central, Mrs Corlett.
Thank you, Mr President. Could I ask the Minister for the Treasury if he will review the eligibility criteria for bereavement payments?
Treasury Minister to reply. Mr Cannon.
Mr President, aside from the funeral payment, which is available to certain people getting income-related benefits who have taken responsibility for the payment of funeral expenses, bereavement support payment is the only state bereavement payment which is and has been since the 6th of April 2017 available to surviving spouses and civil partners who are below state pension age. As stated in my written answer to the Honourable Member's question in another place last Tuesday, we still pay previous forms of bereavement benefits to a number of surviving spouses who were bereaved before the 6th of April 2017, but who continue to qualify for those benefits under transitional provisions. So, Mr President, in answering this question from the Honourable Member for Douglas, I've assumed that she is seeking a review of the eligibility criteria for bereavement support payments. At the last sitting of this Honourable Court, in answering a question from the Honourable Member of Council, Mrs Lord Brennan, I stated that the issue she had raised with me about bereavement support payment would be considered in the autumn of this year. I would extend an invitation to the Honourable Member who asked this question to engage in that process, inform me of the specifics concerns she has, in order that Treasury can indeed consider those at the same time that it considers those that have been raised to us by the Honourable Member of Council. Thank you, Mr President.
Honourable Member Mrs Corlett.
Thank you, Mr President. My concerns are really quite clear. I'd like to ask the Minister, would he agree with me that the eligibility criteria for bereavement payments should be changed to include cohabiting couples? Would he agree that it's neither fair nor equitable, for example, a couple can share decades of their life together, buy a home, have a family, pay their income tax jointly as a cohabitating couple with children, and when the worst thing imaginable happens, the surviving partner is refused bereavement support because they're not legally married or in a civil partnership? How must it feel to lose the love of your life, the person you plan to grow old with, and have that relationship considered as nothing more than boyfriend and girlfriend?
Minister.
Thank you, Mr President, and I acknowledge the Honourable Member's concerns, and I hopefully will have some good news for her in that respect, in that the ineligibility of surviving cohabitees with children for bereavement support payment was successfully challenged earlier this year. The High Court of England and Wales ruled in the Jackson case that the bereavement support payment eligibility criteria, which excludes cohabiting parents from entitlement, is incompatible with human rights law. To cut a long story short, following this ruling, the UK Department for Work and Pensions has advised they intend to make a remedial order which would change the extant provisions so as to make them compatible with human rights provision. That order would need to be laid in Parliament for 2 60-day periods, during which there would be a detailed consultation, and it is expected this would be debated and potentially become law in 2021, possibly the latter part of that year. We would intend to follow these provisions that are being made in the United Kingdom, given that bereavement support payment is within the scope of the reciprocal agreement.
Supplementary, Mrs Corlett.
Thank you, Mr President, and I'm very glad to hear the Minister's answer that this will be reviewed. I'd also go a step further and say, would the Minister agree with me that there's a level of unfairness in the eligibility criteria as it stands, not only for what I've just said, but married couple or those in civil partnerships are still eligible for bereavement payments even if they're separated. As long as they've not divorced or dissolved the partnership, they don't actually have to be together. Would you also agree that the regulation is contradictory at the present in that it states that if you are receiving bereavement payments, your BSP will not stop if you remarry, you form a new civil partnership, or you live with another person as if you were married or civil partners? Thank you.
Mr Cannon to reply.
Well, I think, Mr President, I've said and made the commitment that we will be looking at this. We are looking at it. I'm very happy to take these points away and discuss them with officers and come back and report back to the Honourable Member and indeed the Honourable Court in terms of where we stand in respect to those questions.